The 400 par goal of the Prime Minister Modi-led NDA, the National Democratic Alliance, which settled at 292 seats. The India Alliance won about 234 seats. Out of these, Congress has independently secured 99 seats. Samajwadi Party, which caused a massive upset to the BJP in the state of Uttar Pradesh, won 37 seats. AITC, the All India Trinamool Congress, has 29 seats and DMK has won 22 seats among other parties. Addressing a gathering of the BJP leaders and workers at the party headquarters last evening, Prime Minister Modi declared that NDA has secured a historic third win and that his upcoming tenure will focus on Viksit Bharat aim on making India the world's third largest economy. Congress, on the other hand, hailed Lok Sabha election results and trends as people's verdict against the governance of Modi and Shah in past 10 years. Buoyed by the exemplary performance of his alliance and himself securing thumping victories both in Wayanad as well as the Congress bastion of Rai Bareli, Rahul Gandhi said that they fought the election to save the constitution. As the final tally comes in, high-profile meetings to brainstorm the strategy ahead, attempting to form a government at the centre to speed up the process. Both the alliances, the NDA as well as the India Alliance, are now summoning their partners to the national capital, New Delhi, on Wednesday today for key meetings to discuss future course of action. And the Union Cabinet will also be meeting today to take a stock of the Lok Sabha election results and may recommend the dissolution of the current Lok Sabha. Prime Minister Modi will chair the meeting, which will begin shortly at about 11:30 this morning, a day after the general election results were declared in India. Prime Minister Modi has convened the meetings at his Lok Kalyan Marg residence. Now, the NDA will be holding a meeting at 4 p.m. where JDU Chief Nitish Kumar and TDP Chief Chandrababu Naidu are expected to attend. The Indie Bloc meeting will also be held at 6 p.m. where Congress and its allies are expected to decide the next course of action. And to dwell on whether this election was a battle between the Mandal and the Kamandal, as they call it, listen in to this analysis by our panel of experts.
ये पूछ रहा हूं कि क्या आपको लगता है सच में कि मंडल ने कमंडल को चैलेंज किया इस चुनाव में? हिंदी पट्टी में, उत्तर प्रदेश में, बिहार में, राजस्थान में जम के चैलेंज किया और ये इसका कारण है। ये सारे आंकड़े जो हम देख रहे हैं जो 2019 के बिल्कुल विपरीत है, ये उसका मेन कारण है कास्ट सर्वे और संविधान के साथ जिस तरह राहुल गांधी और उनका पूरा इंडिया अलायंस गठबंधन पीछे पड़ गया हिंदुत्व के, और उस राज्य में जहां से राम जन्मभूमि का मूवमेंट स्टार्ट हुआ, तो उसमें जो है ये बहुत सीरियस चैलेंज है। क्या आपको ये लगता है?
नहीं, देखिए, निश्चित रूप से एक बात तो आप मान करके चलिए कि जिस तरह का एक झूठा प्रचार इन्होंने जो है बिल्कुल इस चुनाव के दौरान किया, जिसमें एक ही बात संविधान खतरे में है, संविधान खतरे में है, और पर्टिकुलरली जो ऐसे सेक्शन हमारे हैं जो बड़े सारी चीज को लेकर के बड़े रहते हैं, उनके आरक्षण के विषय हैं, दूसरे विषय हैं, उन सारे विषयों को लेकर के रहता है, तो उसमें इन्होंने दखल जिस तरह से इस मुद्दे को खड़ा करने की कोशिश की और उससे एक ऐसा एक माहौल जो है उसमें हमारा जो है वो पार्टी के प्रति जो है वो थोड़ा परेशानी वाला हुआ हमको। ये हमने और जगह भी देखा इस सारी चीज को लेकर के, लेकिन मैं समझता हूँ कि अभी राइट नाउ इट्स नॉट पॉसिबल टू जंप टू द कंक्लूजन। जो भी हुआ है इस सारी चीज का पार्टी का नेतृत्व विचार करने के बाद संज्ञान ले ही रहा है।
And the Prime Minister Modi expressed confidence that NDA will form the government for a third consecutive term as he addressed BJP workers at the party headquarters. Modi thanked the BJP workers for their sweat and hard work and said that this inspires Modi to work for the country. The Prime Minister was emotional while addressing this crowd.
कल निजी तौर पर मेरे लिए भी भावुक करने वाला पल है। मेरी मां के जाने के बाद ये मेरा पहला चुनाव था, लेकिन सच मानिए देश की कोटि कोटि माताओं, बहनों, बेटियों ने मां की कमी मुझे खलने नहीं दी। मैं पूरे देश में जहां जहां भी गया, माताओं, बहनों, बेटियों ने अभूतपूर्व स्नेह और आशीर्वाद दिया। और यह आंकड़ों में नहीं दिख सकता है। देश के इतिहास में महिलाओं द्वारा वोटिंग के सारे रिकॉर्ड टूट गए। इस प्यार, इस अपनेपन को मैं शब्दों में बयान नहीं कर सकता। ये मेरे भावों में है, ये मेरे मन मस्तिष्क के कोने कोने में रचा बसा है। हमारे विरोधी एकजुट होकर भी उतनी सीटें नहीं जीत पाए जितनी इस लोकसभा चुनाव में अकेली बीजेपी ने जीती है।
And among the key highlights of the election counting day, BJP opened its account in Kerala for the first time with key candidate Suresh Gopi and KL Sharma reclaiming bastions in Kerala, and KL Sharma, of course, here in Amethi in the state of UP by defeating Smriti Irani by as much as 1.67 lakh votes. And Suresh Gopi has won for the very first time, representing BJP and ensuring that BJP opens its account in the southern state of Kerala from Thrissur, where he won, opening BJP's account in Kerala. As far as Amethi is concerned, it was a close contest between Smriti Irani, the sitting MP, and Congress's KL Sharma. Many thought of it as to be an easy win for Smriti Irani, so much so that when KL Sharma and his candidature was announced, it was said that Gandhi family has in fact let go and given up on Amethi. But KL Sharma's win has been surprising, I believe, to a lot of people. And the NDA has scored its third consecutive victory in Lok Sabha elections. Prime Minister Modi called for a victory of the people and termed it as a victory of the people as the vote counting continued across the country. He praised the performance of NDA under Nitish Kumar in Bihar. Prime Minister also thanked Andhra Pradesh ally Chandrababu Naidu. It is important to note that both Naidu and Nitish Kumar combined efforts have added 28 crucial seats to NDA tally, failing short of which, remember, BJP has not hit that magic figure of 272.
कि केंद्र सरकार आपके विकास के लिए कोई कोर कसर बाकी नहीं छोड़ेगी। आंध्र प्रदेश में चंद्रबाबू नायडू जी के नेतृत्व में एनडीए ने शानदार प्रदर्शन किया है। बिहार में नीतीश बाबू के नेतृत्व में भी एनडीए ने शानदार प्रदर्शन किया है।
And Congress's MP Rahul Gandhi has won both constituencies that he fought in, Raebareli as well as Wayanad, with a thumping margin of votes. In Wayanad, Gandhi beat Communist Party of India's Annie Raja by a margin of a whopping 3,64,000 votes, while BJP's Kerala State President K. Surendran finished third by securing 1,41,000 votes. In 2019 Lok Sabha elections, remember, Rahul Gandhi won the Wayanad seat, securing a significant mandate of over 7 lakh votes. His closest rival, PP Sunir of the CPI, had garnered 2,74,000 votes. In additional Congress bastion of Raebareli, the Congress leader has won that as well. He has beat Suresh's Dinesh Pratap Singh again by securing a margin of 3,89,000 votes. Now, it is interesting to note that the Congress MP has surpassed his mother Sonia Gandhi's victory margin in Raebareli back in 2019 when she won the seat by a margin of barely 1,64,000 votes against Dinesh Pratap Singh. Now, with Rahul's big win in both constituencies, the Congress has put up a strong fight against the BJP's electoral might to double its tally as compared to 2019, albeit a very small number of 100 seats on its own. Together with its allies, the Indie bloc is placed to be comfortable around 230 seats at this point. It's about 40 to 45 seats short, remember, of the magic mark of 272. However, the much underestimated Rahul Gandhi delivered an exceptional performance this time around. Prime Minister Modi won the Varanasi seat as well, but somewhat underwhelmingly with a margin of 1,52,000 votes only. Meanwhile, Rahul secured Raebareli and Wayanad with relatively better margins.
Thank you to the people of Wayanad and Raebareli for the huge support that you have given me. जो आपने मुझे भारी सपोर्ट दिया, भारी बहुमत से आपने जिताया, इसके लिए आप सबको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। मुझसे पूछा जा रहा है कि मैं वायनाड का एमपी रहूंगा या रायबरेली का। मैं तो दोनों का रहना चाहता हूं। धन्यवाद, जय हिंद, कांग्रेचुलेशंस और बधाई आप सबको।
जब तक हम अपने अलायंस पार्टनर से बात नहीं करेंगे और जो नए पार्टनर हमको जुड़ने वाले हैं उनसे भी किस तरीके से हम बात करके अपने को मेजॉरिटी बना सकते हैं वो देखेंगे। सारे स्ट्रैटेजीज अगर यही मैं बोलूँगा फिर मोदी जी होशियार हो जाएंगे। इसलिए
Rahul ji, although the NDA has emerged as, they are getting the majority, but some of its partners have been your partners in the past, including the TDP and the JDU. So have you decided to sit in the opposition, or there are chances of government formation by the India government?
As we have said earlier, we're going to have a meeting with our partners, the India Alliance partners. I believe that meeting is tomorrow, and these questions will be raised there and they will be answered there. We respect our alliance partners, and we are not going to make statements in the press without asking them their opinion.
Of course, is Rahul Gandhi stating that there will be a clarity perhaps on whether Indie Alliance will be able to form that government at the centre by 6 p.m. today, and throughout the day today, meetings on meetings by both NDA partners as well as India Alliance partners to decide on which party will finally form government. So suspense perhaps will be over by the end of the day today. We'll keep tracking all those updates. Time for a short break. We'll be back with more on the other side. Keep watching News 9 Live.
Helps beat sensitivity fast. Sensodyne Rapid Relief.
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
How do you fulfill that promise? Because ultimately expectations have to be met. If you look at the political landscape, is it really changing for women? And what is the inability of the forces that dead bodies surface but not the living people?
Helps beat sensitivity fast. Sensodyne Rapid Relief.
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
20,000 people dead and counting. What's happening in the United States of America is unprecedented. You will have to pay for this.
Start with the end in mind. You need to know where you want to reach. Every morning that we wake up, we are exercising our choice. The destiny is decided. The results are known that I'm going to win. life of a goalkeeper is something which has always intrigued me. When you come into a stadium, this is the highest level of pressure. When I set out to do something, I decide in my mind that failure is not an option.
What you feel very strongly about, those are the stories to tell.
I have a mind which is absolutely restless.
Mind and body are entangled sensations.
That brings me back to golf. It's an amazing game.
This is not a perfect game. You only learn from them.
If you have a formula to a success, then you can replicate it.
I feel this is my first step. I'm starting now.
Winner is first born in the mind. I think, therefore I am. We are all about our mind.
World premiere every Saturday on News 9 Live at 9 p.m.
Helps beat sensitivity fast. Sensodyne Rapid Relief.
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
One of southern India's largest cities is facing a water crisis in Bengaluru.
Water is constantly not coming. From the past 2 months, we are not having some water also.
The citizens deserve water security at the very least.
We are going office without bath.
The acute water shortage really leading to citizens resorting to use of even private water tankers in multiple areas.
This and more. Streaming on News 9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
Helps beat sensitivity fast. Sensodyne Rapid Relief.
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
Welcome back. You're watching News 9 Live with me, Shweta Kothari. People of India have spoken, and it's a fractured mandate for the NDA government. BJP on its own securing just about 240 seats, about 30 to 40 seats short of that magical figure of 272. NDA on its own has secured about 292 seats, claiming that they will be able to form government at the centre, and comfortably so today. There is, of course, mystery on whether India Alliance will be able to get those crucial numbers by the end of the day today. And as that mystery continues, markets are not very happy, or were not really very happy yesterday as far as both Sensex and Nifty is concerned. Both were down about 6.5%. Markets have just opened up. Let me quickly go to my colleague Karthik Malhotra and Suresh here with me. Suresh, what are we getting?
So this morning, of course, the markets have opened about 1% higher, both Nifty and Sensex. But can we really trust this pullback is the real question, right? After a fall of about 6% that happened yesterday, and we saw across the board 75% of the entire market. So I think that's a better gauge to understand what the market is feeling, Shweta. And that index was the worst performing pocket of the market. That fell by about 8%. And in a single session, investors lost close to about 30 lakh crore in the Indian markets. We essentially wiped off all the gains that came our way in 2024 in a single session. Worst fall for the index in 4 years after the after the COVID period happened. And I think what we are seeing is just some bit of a pullback. But can we really trust that? I'm not sure currently, because again, it's recalibration.
I believe the picture is changing by seconds. Is there a pullback, Karthik? Are we looking at a pullback right now?
Shweta, if you look at the heat map, there is definitely a pullback. Most indices are in the green, and most stocks are also in the green at this moment. But this green has to be taken with a pinch of salt, because imagine the kind of fall that you saw yesterday there is a very, very marginal recovery over that fall. So HDFC Bank, for example, right now is up just about 0.6%, right? Look at SBI. SBI is still in the negative, in second decimal points. SBI, if you remember, fell as sharp as 15% yesterday. The Adani stocks continued to trade red. So yesterday there was a lower circuit which was imposed on Adani Ports. Right,
Adani Enterprises and Adani
Enterprises and Adani Ports.
Although they did recover by the end of the day. But
but this morning Adani Enterprises is down almost 5% already. Adani Ports is down 5% already. Look at NTPC, look at Power Grid, look at all the Modi stocks, the PSU sector, the Adani stocks, the banking sector. Not great news this morning. Now, one would have assumed that the commentary which came in late last night should have given some hope to the markets that the India government is coming back to power. And Prime Minister Modi's message is very clear that they are forming government, and in fact, because it is the party with the single largest majority, the president is going to invite BJP to show the numbers, right? And Prime Minister Modi is confident of forming the government. And the commentary that came from Chandrababu Naidu late last night, also shows that he is, there's some sort of, if I may say, a bromance happening on Twitter at least, where Modi is applauding Chandrababu Naidu is thanking Modi,
Absolutely.
So it seems that whatever talks were there yesterday of TDP and JDU switching over to the India bloc, that would have caused maybe another round sell-off in markets this morning. That hasn't happened.
Let's take that question from Andrew Holland, who's joining us on the show. Andrew, what are you making of what happened really in the markets yesterday? There's a bloodbath, almost all stocks bleeding through the day. Mostly majority of the people stating that the kind of mandate that BJP was expected to get, it really fell short on that number by about 70 to 80 seats, way below the 303 mark that it secured in 2019. And hence the reason why its ability to perhaps initiate some of those reforms that it was hoping to do, had it got the majority, had it got the number of seats it was vying for, that is currently making investors jittery.
Yeah, I think you've actually summed it up very well. I think there's a few things that, apart from what you've said, is obviously the kind of concerns over what the policies will be. Will they be tweaked at all? Will it be more populist? So I think those are kind of things that are floating around. I think what the market needs now is obviously for the government to be formed as quickly as possible. Hopefully get back to that business as usual. Now let's be sure about a few things. One, spending on defence, renewables, energy, and railways is not going to go away. It's going to continue. So I think the market is missing a little bit there in terms of tarring everything with the same brush. But I think once we get to that 100-day policy and the budget, I think that's where the market will be focused now in terms of, is it business as usual? Is it going to be more populist? And if so, how does that hurt the fiscal, if it does at all? So I think that's where it's just going to remain a little bit kind of nervous ahead of these things. But from my point of view, I think what it does is, from a kind of a sentiment viewpoint, probably takes some of that premium away from valuations that we had, and puts us back in the case of which sectors are going to do well, and it's not every sector which will do well going forward.
All right, and the point that I was trying to make earlier, Shweta, that can we trust this pullback? The markets have actually reversed course. We opened about 1% higher, and then in the last 10 minutes alone, the market has not only paired all those gains. Now we have turned a corner. We are in the negative. It's down 0.3% as we speak. So it will be choppy. But can we expect a pullback or a correction or a bloodbath of sorts that happened yesterday? I don't think so, personally, because the shock factor, in my opinion, has already been absorbed in prices. What could happen potentially over the next 4-5 sessions is that market could trade sideways. It will be a volatile session, and we will need to closely keep the check on the support and resistance levels. And for that, Andrew, I'll come to you. The market has reversed course. It opened in the green. It's now in the red. All indices across the board selling. Sir, what is your expectation? Will Nifty break yesterday's low, which was at about 21,821? Can we expect further correction from here on?
Listen, the market's going to be choppy, as you said, but I think if the next few days, if it can kind of consolidate around these levels, and I think you're right, it was a shock yesterday, and that got played out in a various number of sectors, very, very sharply, more than the index. So some of those excesses that people felt were there have been eased away. I think where the strategy is probably going to change is probably now towards large caps again. Rather than mid caps and small caps, just in the very short term until that continuity of policy as business as usual comes to the fore and market gains more confidence in the new government. And I think that will take a few months, but for sure the economy has not changed since these results, and is not likely to do given the multiplier effects across many different industries. Because of the government spending and policies.
Andrew, can I ask you a very direct question? In your opinion, do you think this is actually, yesterday was day one of the end of a bull run, and starting today we are either looking at markets being flat or the bears coming and taking charge, at least until the key budget headlines come out?
Yeah, I think in the next kind of week or so is probably getting the business as usual narrative out there, and I think in a lot of cases it will be business as usual for the sectors I mentioned. So I just think it takes the edge off valuations, which anyway we were all complaining about were too high. So a period of consolidation ahead of the budget is probably where we're probably going to end up, with some kind of choppiness in between, in terms of I suppose concerns about any populist measures that might come through.
Just to add to what Andrew was saying here, of course the markets are expected to be jittery because when budget comes, what will be the priority of the new government? Because over the last 5 years, capex, the capital expenditure in the budget has expanded by about 5x. So what will be the priority, and the sectors that were performing too well in that time period, your railways, your defense, your infrastructure themes, will those themes continue going forward as well?
It's going to be more populistic.
Shweta, my limited question and sort of retort to that is, why would any government want to change those priority areas? It might seem that with the dependence on coalition partners, you may want to cut back on your spending on infrastructure, but why would coalition partners also want that?
But we're compelled to perhaps come up with more populistic measures. So will the fiscal prudence and path to that fiscal prudence take a back seat, and will more populistic policies?
Is it fair to say that the Modi government in its second term did not have populist measures? Of course they had populist measures.
Perhaps need for more populist measures at this point in time, given that
what have they got to gain with that? Because they are not seeing elections for another 5 years.
Absolutely.
So there is no reason for
the
government
politics doesn't stop today. It will not stop for the next 5 years. I think it's a question that we can take from Firoz Aziz, who's also joining us on the show. Firoz, what would be your advice to retail investors today? Throughout the course of last 1 month, we have seen statements coming in from finance minister to external affairs minister that on 4th of June, come 4th of June, markets are going to rally. A lot of them have lost a lot of money. To the retail investors today, what would your suggestion be? Should they come in? Should they start putting in more money, or should they hold and wait and watch out?
My mind, I think I would say it's a good outcome. It's better than what could have happened if there were 20-30 seats lesser for the NDA. Then you would have had a hung parliament, which is very detrimental. Any time when you don't have a stable government, Nifty prices always underperform Nifty earnings. So that's point one. Point two, are you able to hear me? Because there's a lot of
we
other...
can.
Yeah.
All right.
Coming back to the point, I would tell retail investors to not be too worried. What the markets have washed away is the return of the last 1 week. If you look at expectations to reality, that's a big reality check. Exit polls created even further expectations. Markets were where they are just a week back. If you look at 29th May's Nifty levels and now, or 28th May's Nifty levels, last month, then whatever you saw in your statement, as a mutual fund investor, you would see almost the same price, point one. If you are a stock investor and if you were flamboyant buying small cap stocks, of course the markdowns could have been significantly more. But in my opinion, a stable government can very easily be formed with 240 seats by the majority. The maximum seats of one party is 240, and that's not too different than the UPA 1 and 2. So stable government is a near certainty for the next 5 years. Of course, priorities will not be as strong and as high conviction as they could.
All right, and you know the discussion that we were having earlier, I think Aziz is having some network issues, but yes. I'll come to that. You know, we were talking about, first of all, let me point it out that this is the first time BJP will actually need the help of their alliance partners to form a majority, a simple majority, that too. So as you were also mentioning earlier, some of those populist measures could perhaps creep in. And again, what is the budget going to look like? And once Feroz is, I would like to ask him a question that, you know, I remember on Monday when we spoke, he picked up 3 themes: infrastructure, defense and railways to, you know, particularly do well in the next 5 years. Aziz, are those still your top 3 picks as far as sectoral allocation or themes to play on, you know, after that outcome is out?
Yes, I would still say that. But I think you're absolutely right. Those were the 3 themes, assuming the exit polls would have been true. I don't think too much has changed. I would still say that India...
All right, it does look like we are not able to get through to Feroz, but Andrew continues to be with us. And I just want to come back on that conversation, Karthik. My reading of what the elections have... And it's been a surprise to everybody, from exit polls to all of us as journalists, as citizens of this country. Nobody predicted for a BJP to not get that clear mandate of 272. And now...
Nobody in India, but I believe the FIIs had their story charted out bang on. I think if we were to just look at the cues from the FII space, we would have known that perhaps it is going to be a fractured mandate. But yeah, back to your...
And just to add to what Karthik was saying, they are still building on those net positions. You know, on Friday, just before the exit polls came out, they were net short 3.2 lakh contracts, which is the highest ever. Today, as of today, they are net short 3.55 lakh contracts. So building on to the big short that they have already, you know, factored into the system. And, you know, Andrew, we were talking about this on Monday as well. You know, what do these FIIs know that we, you know, we don't know, we have not really factored. And it clearly seems that they certainly knew something more than our domestic investors knew, and they are now doubling down. Rather, they are buying, selling more in the cash segment and building onto the, you know, the short position in the future market. Do you see this trend continuing, sir?
So I'm not sure if they knew anything more than anyone else, but I think, you know, as in any big event, a lot of foreign investors will hedge for any tail risk, which is what they did. You know, they probably just kept that hedges very high because of all the uncertainty that you've mentioned, you know, coming into today and the next few days, until they themselves get clarity. So I would think that, you know, whilst we're all expecting FIIs to be, you know, rushing into the market after the election, that might not be the case. I think they'll wait to see policy continuity. They'll wait for the budget. And then see where valuations are and take a view from there. In terms of I just want to go back on your thing about populist measures. Don't forget that, you know, the government does have some leeway given the RBI dividend. We talked about this before, in that, you know, they can reduce the fiscal deficit or they can spend. Now maybe some of that extra spending goes towards some measures, you know, to help the rural economy rather than, say, infrastructure spending. So that's, you know, I don't think the fiscal prudence goes away from the government, would be my view.
Now, Andrew, just to follow up on that, I think you said that they were using this, you know, this short positioning in the futures market as a hedging strategy. Is that right?
Yes, it's usually to cover for any kind of risks.
But sir, they were actually not. I mean, if you look at it, they were selling in both the cash segment. They pulled out close to 1,25,000 crores from the Indian markets in the cash segment in the first 5 months of 24. And at the same time, they were building this short position, essentially doubling down, right?
No, so they might have reduced the positions in cash to reduce their overall weightings, because we talked about this before in terms of maybe funding, you know, some of their investments into, say, China, which they've been, you know, starting to buy a lot more. But in terms of the run up to the elections, a lot of FIIs would be, you know, their risk managers would say, you know, we should have some hedges, you know, to protect the portfolio just in case. and I think that's what the case was.
All right, and I want to come to you, some of the stocks, Suyash, that people are, I'm getting a lot of queries through the day today as to what stocks one should invest in. A lot of stocks that hit lower circuit yesterday, some of them staging some sort of recovery, and we'll come back to you on that in just a bit. But Karthik, you know, on those 54 stocks, the Modi stocks, should one look at them now? Should one wait and watch for whether Modi, whenever he comes to power, for some sort of stability to finally creep in? Or should one make positions in those stocks? Now, what would your suggestion be at this point in time?
I wouldn't make any suggestion. I dare not make any suggestion. I'm not a registered financial advisor. But guess what? Neither is Prime Minister Narendra Modi, nor is Amit Shah,
all of them rolled out
Finance Minister
advisors.
Nirmala Sitharaman, or External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, who continue to hold those cabinet positions until the cabinet dissolves Parliament today at 11:30 a.m. But yeah, broadly speaking, I think, you know, like we've been discussing, nobody had anticipated such a mandate to come out of the elections. So CLSA, and why just single out CLSA or single out certain institutions? I think across the board,
everybody, Jeffries to CLSA,
look
to
at
everyone.
Nomura had suggested
Nomura,
323 seats for the BJP. Right. HSBC had come up with a similar estimation of number of seats. You had CLSA coming out with Modi stocks. Modi himself saying that buy, because you will, in fact, Amit Shah saying buy, but Modi saying that all programming is going to fail on the 4th of June because markets are going to soar. Well, nothing
but the other way around.
Failed, but it went the other way around. Anyway, I think, you know, what we really need to come back to is this 100-day agenda that, you know, that everybody is talking about right now. What is going to change in 100 days? A lot could have been pushed in the first 100 days if Narendra Modi had a bigger mandate of the people, right? And I think most critical for India's next level of transformation are land reforms, labor reforms, and some sort of a tax simplification, tariff simplification. It is going to be very, very difficult with a fractured mandate to go ahead and implement those reforms on the labor side particularly and on the land side, because labor becomes very, very critical to states, and getting the buy-in of states to concur and comply and execute in the first 100 days, to my limited understanding, it's an impossibility that we are looking at. Right now, we were talking earlier about infrastructure, capex spends. We were talking about certain schemes like, you know, electronics push, PLI for electronics, etc. These are schemes which yield a multiplier effect through infrastructure, and B, direct employment through the PLI scheme. If you're setting up factories, or the semiconductor mission, right, there's a 76,000 crore rupee allocation for that, or multiple other such schemes which are linked to generating employment. It is very unlikely that any coalition partner will want to withdraw or push the government to not execute those. What is likely to run into trouble are going to be your land reforms, labor reforms, which will need the opposition also to be on your side. And that opposition now will want to safeguard its own interests and push for a little more in the states where they either are in power or are hoping to come to power at a Vidhan Sabha level.
You know, this is also a mandate on Modi's policies, come to think of it. Economy growing at about 8.2% this year. Land labor reforms slated to happen if Modi government were to get a mandate, which it did not at this point. Also fiscal prudence, infrastructure spending, everything on the macro level was working for the Modi government. Where was it that Modi government fell short? From my reading of it, from what analysts are saying and people on ground are saying at the moment, is that people were not very happy about the fact that even though headline numbers were looking very fancy when it came to growth, actual jobs were not created.
Absolutely. So I think, you know, jobs is a big problem, and even though the the headline numbers on jobs suggest that urban unemployment has dipped from what 8.2% to 8.1% or something, a marginal decline on a year-on-year basis, the real challenge almost a 30% unemployment rate within the age group of 15 to 29, which are your first or your second jobbers.
First time or second time job
so
seekers.
So that seemed to be something which the youth did not really, take very well. And then I think all the other M factors that we have previously discussed, whether it was the woman voter, the Mahila factor, or the Mandir factor, or the Muslim factor, minority
is it
factor,
a rejection of all of those factors?
I think many of these did not really play out in favor of Narendra Modi. However, having said that, the party has still got 240 seats,
which is the single largest party in Lok
than
Sabha.
Any other party, and highest and higher than pretty much the entire India alliance put together.
Absolutely.
So it's incorrect to say that people have booted out Narendra Modi.
No, they haven't.
Not enough people have rebooted in Narendra Modi.
All right. So in which case we are running short on time. So perhaps the last question that I can take for Andrew. Andrew, what are your expectations as far as first 100 days is concerned? What should be the government's agenda, economic agenda, to perhaps not just make the existing voters, people who actually voted for Narendra Modi-led NDA, to make them happy, but to also tell the people who are disenchanted with this government that we are here for you at this point. What do you think should be the government's agenda for the next 100 days?
I think the agenda should, I mean, for the markets, I would hope that the agenda would be more still focused on the expenditure in infrastructure, so capital expenditure, to keep the economy, growing at the rate it is, and maybe use the budget as a form of helping the kind of rural economy kind of start to pick up, and I think that's probably where we're likely to see things. We'd also, and I want to add this in terms of emphasis, keeping that fiscal prudence, because I think that's what, if they can manage that, and again, the RBI dividend gives them some flexibility to manage that. And I think if that was the outcome, I think the market would like that.
All right, so fiscal prudence, of course, to be kept intact, but also try to woo the rural economy, to woo the rural people at this point who were perhaps not very happy with what the government has done in the last 10 years. Yes.
So a point on fiscal prudence, they already had said that they would like to reduce that fiscal deficit. Of course, that RBI's bonanza, payout of dividend to government, that would have certainly helped to bring down fiscal deficit, and they were banking on private sector to come in and push that the capex over the next couple of years. And about monsoon particular, and about rural demand, actually monsoon this time around, at least from what we are hearing from Met and SkyMet, it's expected to be better this time around. And if you look at it, when the entire market was falling yesterday, your defensive sector like FMCG was actually doing pretty well. It ended in the green, almost up 1%, and constituent stocks like HUL, Nestle for that matter, were the top gainers, and they gained about 3% or 4% each. So rural demand could perhaps be on the back of expectations that monsoon is expected to come back, and input costs continue to reduce, Shweta.
All right, and before I close this show, very interestingly, consumption stocks obviously beating the trend when it came to the entire markets bleeding, broader markets bleeding yesterday. Does it also tell you perhaps what's going to be on the agenda for the government? As we discussed clearly, what the government did so far economically hasn't done really well for people, at least in rural parts of India, for the seats particularly in UP, which have rejected your mandir politics, your Mangal Sutra, your masjid, your Muslim politics. All of that has been rejected, at least in the state of UP. In your assessment, Karthik, what should the government be doing in the next 100 days? That's number one. Number two, are you looking at some sort of pivot from the existing policies as far as fiscal prudence is concerned? Because infrastructure, of course, continues to be one of those key planks on which this government has banged on. Spending, at least the initial in the budget, the spends have come into the tune of about 11 lakh crore rupees. That number could just go up and down marginally. But in your assessment,
Shweta, I don't see any reduction. If at all, I only see addition in the infrastructure, government's own capex, right?
But now, private sector hasn't really come
It's going to be next to impossible to reignite the animal spirits of private sector, because remember, the cost of capital is very high right now. So until we see a correction in rates, it's going to be next to impossible to get the private sector in a fractured mandate for the government to make large-scale investments. So FDI norms will have to be relaxed. You will have to play the China Plus One strategy, and instead of expecting India-based, India-centric companies to make fresh investments in an environment where demand is perhaps likely to remain tepid because of the overall inflation numbers and employment numbers not really adding up, you will have to look at playing on the China Plus One strategy, get foreign institutions, foreign players to come make in India, and that is something which the government has been pushing, will have to continue to push. And we have early success in the electronic space. I think the next industry that we must target with the same amount of gumption and spirit needs to be the electric mobility space, then the semiconductor space, where again we've seen some early signs of success, and the last one happens to be the the renewable energy 5G space. So we have mammoth projects, mammoth investments and outlays already in each of these policies. All we need to do is get the right partners to come make those investments in India.
And we'll also be waiting for the final budget to, of course, come in the month of July sometime, depending on whichever government comes to power. But as far as a quick check on both Nifty and Sensex is concerned, Nifty up by about 73 points, 0.34% up. Sensex about 243 points recovery there, 0.35% up, swinging both one way or the other through the day. We'll try and get you all those updates here on News9 Live. Andrew Holland, thank you very much, sir, for taking time out for joining us this morning. But with that, it's a wrap on this show. Thank you for watching.
Helps beat sensitivity fast. Sensodyne Rapid Relief.
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी
20,000 people dead and counting. What's happening in the United States of America is unprecedented. You will have to pay for this.
Start end in mind. You need to know where you want to reach. Every morning that we wake up, we are exercising our choice. The destiny is decided. The results are known that I'm going to win. Life of a goalkeeper is something which has always intrigued me. When you come into a stadium, this is the highest level of pressure. When I set out to do something, I decide in my mind that failure is not an option.
What you feel very strongly about, those are the stories to tell.
I have a mind which is absolutely restless. Mind and body are entangled sensations. That brings me back to golf. It's an amazing game.
This is not a perfect game. You only learn from them.
If you have a formula to a success, then you can replicate it.
I feel this is my first step. I'm starting.
Winner is first born in the mind. I think, therefore I am. We are all about our mind.
World premiere every Saturday on News9 Live at 9 p.m.
Helps beat sensitivity fast. Sensodyne Rapid Relief.
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी
Welcome back. You're watching Mandate 2024 with me, Shweta Kothari. Now, BJP swept the state of Odisha and the assembly elections as well, which was in fact a surprise to many, winning as many as 78 of the total 147 seats. Former MP from BJD, Tagatha Satpathy, slammed VK Pandian, who were handling of the elections and the loss faced by BJD. He added that Lord Jagannath withdrew his blessings from BJD over the Parikrama project and that the people of Odisha have seen through attempt of a civil servant to take over the party.
I primarily think that whoever has disturbed our Lord Jagannath, I am not saying this politically, not saying this religiously, but in a political sense, whoever has touched Lord Jagannath has had to suffer. The way the Puri temple was disturbed and that Parikrama project was taken up, that was one reason why I think the blessing was withdrawn from the edifice that the BJD had become. The BJD is not someone's private party. It was the aspirations and the hopes of the Odia masses that had bestowed the blessings on that system, on that party, and they could have utilized it even further by being more positive towards the state. But by the way they were going ahead politically, compromising at every stage to safeguard their own interest, that backfired. Whereas in the neighboring Bengal, if you see, because there was no compromise, there was no fall. But these people compromised and they disturbed the Lord and they suffered. Whoever has disturbed the Lord has suffered. Even earlier also in history in Odisha, we have seen this many a times. Well, the way the BJD was being manipulated, the way all political elements were driven out, the way one former civil servant thought that he could take over the party by controlling one individual. That party does not belong to an individual. It belongs to the Odia race. And it will again reinvent itself. I am certain the party will reinvent itself. Maybe the name will change, but the political drive of the Odia race will remain and it will be successful even in future. So let us not write off the party or the organization. We will have to write off some individuals. And that has been done, and whether it is a government officer or whether it is a government officer who has taken voluntary retirement, these individuals are of no consequence for the people of Odisha. They did not approve the funny type of behavior that was shown to them. It is not money that can buy people here. It is the love and the genuineness that can buy the Odia people. And they rejected the way they were behaved with. They just simply did not want to deal with that kind of a person. See, I personally feel the BJP will not send any of its any of its MPs who have won, because that will decrease the number in Delhi for them in Lok Sabha. So I do not think any of the MPs will be able to come back. So there will be a choice of somebody from within the legislative party. I think the BJP has enough young people with bright ideas and politically very mature. I can even name one or two people like that. And I think that will be good for the state to have a change. And I personally believe there should be a change every 5 years. Odisha should not again go for a long-term system.
All right, my colleague Shreya joining us here on the show. Shreya, Tadgatha is one of the many people who are now looking to blame BJD and especially VK Pandian for that massive defeat that BJD has seen in the assembly elections. Many were seeing this as a surprise. For BJD, it's a surprise. For Naveen Patnaik, it's a surprise. But I think the one man who's going to take the blame would be Pandian.
Absolutely, Shweta. In fact, as June 4th, delivered a lot of surprises in terms of results. I think Odisha emerged out as one special state where we could see it on two fronts. Not just the results for the Lok Sabha elections, but also the results of their assembly polls where the BJP swept with 78 seats. Now, the question remains, and as the question you also pointed out, as to why the BJD is in such a state after a 24-year long term of Naveen Patnaik. And I'm going to break this down in the next few minutes. I'm just going to break it down to a few factors. Number one, very well pointed, is VK Pandian. As Tathagat, the former MP from the BJD, also mentioned that VK Pandian has, over the years, he has always been the man behind Naveen Patnaik, and it is known that he is the one who controls the entire situation in Odisha while, being in action from the back foot. But now that people are looking at the situation in Odisha, the Odia race seems to be done with that one-man game, and they do not have their confidence in an outsider, which is VK Pandian, because remember, VK Pandian doesn't come from Odisha, he is a Tamilian. He from the state of Tamil Nadu. So that is one reason. And as Tathagat also mentioned that, the BJD was being manipulated, the way all political elements were driven out, and the way one former civil servant thought that he could take over the party by controlling one individual. This is one very crucial factor that the people of Odisha have, the voters had in their mind. This factor resonated with them while they were voting for them. And when we speak of the Parikrama project as well that Tathagat has mentioned while speaking to the news agencies, that in itself, the Jagannath temple is considered to be extremely holy, and it is being said the Parikrama project was one that was introduced around 2019, but there were a series of cases that were being brought up in the Supreme Court, the PILs, because there is a provision, remember, that within the 100-meter of the Jagannath temple there is no construction that's allowed. And in fact, I'll also take you back to another incident. While the entire Parikrama project is worth 800 crore and it finally did get inaugurated in 2024 earlier in this year itself. Last year VK Pandian had faced a lot of backlash because the Jagannath temple, he had brought in a social media influencer, Kamya Jani, who was brought in to promote the Jagannath temple, promote this project as well, and it was later revealed that she's a beef eater. Why this didn't go down well with the Odiyaris or the Odiya voters is because the sanctity of the Jagannath temple was violated, because no beef eater until and unless it's the tradition there that no one of such such character will be allowed inside the Jagannath temple. They have to go through a purification process, and we know that the people of Odisha are extremely deep-seated and deep-rooted with their traditions, especially that surround the Jagannath temple. So these are some of the key points, especially VK Pandian. And remember, this in fact the entire conversation about VK Pandian taking over, that is exactly why Naveen Patnaik only a few days ago had even done a press conference where he mentioned that VK Pandian is not his successor. So see, these are some of the points that led to the results that we saw yesterday.
All right, thank you very much for summing that up. VK Pandian is not my successor. That was the word coming in from Naveen Patnaik just right ahead of those crucial elections in Odisha. But having said that, BJP still lost. BJP won about 78 of the 147 seats. This is not a defeat that Naveen Patnaik would have ever thought in his wildest dreams. He was the sitting Chief Minister for over 24 years. He was looking to come back for a 6th successive term. It did not happen. In fact, he lost the second seat apart from Hinjli, where he was contesting from. Another blow to Naveen Patnaik and VK Pandian, and of course questions will be raised on what the BJD has done and has it done enough to consolidate its vote base. But with that, it's time for a quick break. We'll be back with more on the other side. You're watching Mandate 2024 with us.
Helps beat sensitivity fast. Sensodyne Rapid Relief.
हर पल मनाओ